I love Lucy on the water, and yes, I have red hair. I am extremely good at dock fishing. I'm probably the best in Tampa Bay at dock fishing, and I say that. I challenge anybody to catch a bigger dock than I've caught. I've caught some beautiful sailboats, a couple of engines. I mean, I'm really good at it.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, coming to you from the Lance Chuck Camper Mobile Podcast Studio, Master Captain Angie Scott.
Pamela Wirth, welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast. I'm so excited to have you as a guest.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I was thrilled when I got your text inviting me. So
yeah,
that was very cool. Thank you.
I'm just sorry we haven't been able to do it sooner, or maybe even in person. I just got back from Florida myself after the temps dropped, but I'm back up in Nashville now, so we'll have to meet up at some point whenever I get back down there.
Yeah, let me know. That would be fun. I'll always have an extra kayak. Putter around in.
Yeah, great. You know, my first hearing your story, I just can't wait for you to share with our audience. But my first kayak fishing experience ever was out on a Hobie out of La Jolla in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
It was pretty intimidating, but probably not for you as much as it was for me. But so you grew up in Florida, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Florida. I'm from a large family. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters, so that's 7 of us.
Wow.
And one of the things we used to do a lot was fishing. It was just a family event that we did. And I still remember like my first cane pole. I know that sounds funny, but going into the bait shop and Dad said, okay, everybody pick your pole out. And that next day we went out to like a little dock on the New River and fished for hours. It was great. It was a time where my brother and my sister and I would get on our bikes. We'd pedal like 5 miles to the little bait store on Davie Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, buy what I used to call like a little Asian box size of frozen shrimp, like you'd get your leftovers in, and then pedal another 5 miles over to the Intercoastal, sit on the seawall next to the drawbridge and fish the whole day.
Wow.
Okay. If you did that today, HR, you would be called in for, my mom would have been called in for, neglecting your children or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. So did fishing always play a big role in your life, or did you kind of drift away from it at some point, or?
Yeah, it was kind of back and forth throughout my life. I left it for years and years and years, profession, mom, wife, mom, the whole bit. And for about 38 years, I was in the mortgage banking business, which is very high stress.
Yeah.
You need to be available 24/7, have your cell phone with you. In the early days, your pager. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had to walk away from dinner. And of course, my husband would always make fun of it. Oh, there she goes again. We can't even have a simple dinner together. I mean, but somebody said, you should go kayak fishing. It's great stress relief. So I found a guide in the Tampa Bay area, and I got these cute little shorts, black shorts, and this cute little black shirt and a little hat. And I thought, oh, I look cute, right? And I got there, and everybody was in fishing clothes. And I stepped out of the car, and I looked around, and I go, I am not dressed appropriately, am I? And they all started laughing. I want to tell you, that was one of the worst sunburns I've ever had in my life. But I got hooked. I mean, it happened to be, I was blessed that I happened to find somebody that used artificials. And I've just been hooked ever since. I love artificials. I love getting up first thing in the morning, getting on the water before the sun even comes up, and being on the water when everything starts to awaken. When the birds start coming up and you hear their calls, you can just see the sun or the sky start to turn orange. The water is like a lake. And when you throw an artificial and you're bringing it in, it's kind of, almost it's like hum, 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 throw it out, bring it in, throw it out, bring it in, soft waves rippling. It's so calming.
Mm.
And then when the fish hits, bam, okay, let's do this. And I'm an A-type personality. So it's like the adrenaline rushes. I got him, I got him. Oh, don't come off, don't come off.
Yeah.
Seriously, I say that. Don't come off, don't come off, don't come off. People are laughing around me. Pam, you know that's not going to make a difference. It makes a difference to me. Don't come off.
Wow, that's an awesome description. You really just brought me in the moment. I wished I was there.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's what I started for. And little by little, and it's on my phone today. If you call me and for some reason I can't pick up, it says, "Hi, your call is very important to me. Unfortunately, I'm on the other line right now." And I wasn't lying. I was on a fishing line.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and it was great. And I tended to fish more and mortgage bank less. And the realtors that bothered me, I didn't return their calls at all.
Mm.
So my boss one day said, hey, are you even like doing this anymore? And I go, oh, I'm in the Everglades, so not today.
So you just kind of phased out.
Yeah, it was great. I talked with my husband. It's probably the best thing I ever did. And I mean, our kids, we had show horses. So my daughter was ranked nationally. She did really well. We had Morgans and Saddlebreds.
Mm.
And when she got into college and turned 18, she was no longer used. So I looked at her and I go, well, are you keeping the horse? It's, not my responsibility anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a ride as an adult and she had a full, thing with college and everything. Mm-hmm. She had a double major. So we ended up getting rid of the horses. All 3 kids were out of college. Our house is almost paid off. My car is paid off. It's like, I talked to my husband. I go, do you have a problem if I don't earn this money anymore? He goes, no. He goes, you deserve it. Go have fun. He goes, just don't put us in debt.
That's hard to do when you're fishing.
Yeah. Well, I was also so blessed that Mr. Lee came up to me with Tampa Fishing Outfitters and said, hey, listen, because I jokingly said, yeah, I'm looking for something part-time, just kidding around. And 2 weeks he called me and said, I got a full-time place for you. Come. I went, okay. So now I get to fish all weekend, unless the weather was horrible like it was this weekend. Mm-hmm. and during the week, I talk fishing with everybody that comes in. So, I mean, could my life be more perfect?
Sounds like you're living the dream.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Exactly. What a great retirement life, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's the other thing that was so funny is that people, when they hear me, or very rarely do you see my picture on any of my Instagram, because again, I'm in a kayak, I'm fishing by myself, I'm technologically challenged. I mean, my husband's a retired sports anchor. He could edit, he could do anything he wants. He chooses not to, or doesn't find the time to. God, I hope he doesn't hear this. But so I do 99% of my photos and my little video clips are all from my phone. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to turn around and face it at me. I'm facing at the fish. So when people meet me, they go, gee, we thought you were like in your 40s. No, thank you so much, though.
Yeah, I wonder, I watch, we talked earlier offline about Christine Fisher. I see her social media and I'm like, does she have like a professional photographer that follows her around and takes all her pictures?
I was going to ask her that once and I thought, no, that would be very like,
I
couldn't do that. Yeah, you ask her. I can't. No, she's an amazing angler. I'm so excited for her. And for the first time in history, you have 2 women going to Hobie World from the United States. She's coming from the freshwater division and I'm coming from the saltwater division.
That's amazing.
That is outstanding. And the amount of, and I'm not picking on anybody, so please no one take it that way, but the amount of gentlemen we had to rank in front of, mm-hmm. The statistically, the chances of that happening are like 1 in a bazillion.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, we're both very excited about that.
It's great to see, and we've come a long ways over the past few years, and women like you kind of blazing the trail for others. I think I hope it's just gonna continue to grow and explode.
Well, it's given me a lot of opportunity. I saw a friend of mine go offshore fishing, and I go, oh, I'm going to do that. That looked like fun. And somebody goes, have you ever done it before? No. So I'm going. So I was lucky enough to, there's a guide down in South Florida, Brian Nelly. So I went out with him just to make sure I felt good. And also my buddy who lived here in St. Pete, Derek Benton, just to make sure my knots were okay. I felt comfortable. I didn't feel too tippy and the whole bit. And it's just go. And I ended up the first person in tournament history to catch more than one sailfish in the tournament. Wow. I was the first person to double up. So that was pretty exciting.
I can't imagine catching a sailfish from a kayak. What's that experience like?
It's like probably my favorite fish to catch in the kayak out of everything. Yeah. I love it. And out of all the sailfish I've caught, no two have ever been alike. It's some have just done nothing but like high rocket jumps. Some have just taken off and given you a tow ride. Some have done a combination of two. It's so exciting, and your heart just
Sure.
It is so exciting.
Wow.
It is an adrenaline rush. It is so much fun. And what's so funny about it is with Christina, I mean, you're looking at the youth of America. And with me, I only started fishing in 2015. So it's not like I've been seriously doing this all my life as a kid, with the Zebco and the cane pole. But like I said, I did it for stress reduction. And it just shows that there's no age limit or sex limit to fishing. Get out there and do it no matter your age. If you're not sure, hire a guide. Be careful of the guides, though. I always tell people, interview your guide before you actually go. Don't compare guides just by cost. Since I fish artificials, I'm always looking for a guide that does fly fishing because that person knows how to pick apart an area because they're fly fishing and they know how to kind of what I call stalk the fish. But there's nothing wrong with just throwing bait out there and waiting for the fish to hit it. I mean, that can be a lot of fun too, but I just like the stalking part of it.
That's interesting. So, I hadn't heard or thought about looking for guides that fly fish for that reason. Do you do any fly fishing yourself, or is it all conventional for you?
You know who Lucy Arnaz is, right? I Love Lucy?
Yes.
Okay, I Love Lucy on the water, and yes, I have red hair. I am extremely good at dock fishing. I'm probably the best in Tampa Bay at dock fishing, and I say that. I challenge anybody to catch a bigger dock than I've caught. I've caught some beautiful sailboats, a couple of engines. I mean, I'm really good at it. So that being said, trying to get all that line in my kayak and swing it around is I feel chaos. Although I love tying flies. Okay. Just fly fishing is not my expertise. I'll stay with what I know.
Yep. Gotcha. That's kind of where I stand with it as well. I've tried it a couple times and I'm good at trying to get better at just the conventional fishing for now.
Yeah. I mean, the movement of it's so rhythmic, however you say that word, that it's beautiful. It's just like, it's like equestrian, watching my daughter ride, the perfect ride, the horse prance, it's magical. But it's not me. I Love Lucy. I'll be falling off the front of the boat. I'll be wrapping it up in another rod, around the front of the boat, the pedal system. Yeah, no. Although I know people who do it, there's a lot of guys out there who can fly fish and do fly fish from the kayak. It's just personally, it's a little more aggravating. And like I said, I use it for stress reduction. Right. I don't want to do anything that's going to aggravate me.
Right. Yeah. Counterproductive there. So that being said, have you had any kind of harrowing experiences while you've been offshore in the kayak?
Oh yeah, I flipped that kayak.
Oh man.
Basically I think fishing offshore in a kayak is easier to land a fish than if you're in a boat. I'm tall. I'm about 5'10". So the sides of the boat hit the sides of my legs, not up by your hips where you can get balance. And with the boat rocking, so you're trying to balance yourself with the boat rocking, you're standing up. You can't really lean on the side of the boat to get, a little leverage from the side of the boat. And the fish is pulling you. and the boat's stationary. All right. So you really are working to get that fish in. Now transition into the kayak. I'm in the kayak. I'm sitting back. I have lumbar support. I have my feet braced in front of me. And if I keep that fish at 45 on either side, basically directly out or in front of me and not behind me, then I have the perfect captain's chair. Plus, the fish is going to get worn out dragging the kayak behind him. It's kind of, think of that scene of Jaws where they put all the drums on, attached it to the fish to try to keep the fish up and wear them down. Well, my kayak's a big drum. But yeah, I did get a leak in my boat, and it was particularly, how do I want to say, the water conditions weren't particularly the best, or the weather conditions. So coming back in, I did radio them about every 5 or 10 minutes, letting them know that I was taking on water, that I was on my way back in. I was safe at the time. And then this was in Pompano, in a great big giant cruiser, one of those multi-million-dollar ones, came flying by. And the wake had to be about 4 or 5 feet, which is no big deal usually, except I'm now, the inside of my boat is full of water. So I leaned into the wake, literally almost touched my shoulder. And when the boat went up, it just kept going up. All the water inside the boat went to the lowest part, and the boat just nicely rolled. I'm like, so I radio, and I go, okay, guys, do you see that big cruiser that went by? And they go, yes, and there was a little foul language from a couple of the guys. And I said, well, it rolled me. What? But those tournaments all have help boats. So I had somebody there within a minute or two. Since I had radioed my position every time, they knew exactly where I was. So it was, it wasn't scary. I think the scariest for me, and I just keep going, I feel like that little engine who could, is when you're launching into breakers. That's like the second scariest. You just go, you get up speed and you go into the wave. If the wave's coming at an angle, you need to go out in an angle and not straight. Most people, when I tell them go straight into the wave, they think go straight off the beach. No, like from surfing, straight into the wave. And I was a surfer as a kid. So I always look for we used to, the undertow, where the water's rushing back out, because usually the waves are going to lay down a little bit and that water's going to shoot you out. So I literally was standing on the beach, even if I'm the last one launching, waiting for that undertow to catch up to where we are and then launch. And then the really scariest is coming back in when you have breakers behind you, or they're breaking on the back of you. And there's an easy way out of that I learned in Panama when I was fishing down there in the kayak. Oh, that's a great place, Los Buscos. But anyhow, right before the breakers, right before they start to break, and you know where that is, jump out of your kayak and hold on to the back of it. You're going to act as a windsock. Okay. You'll keep the nose forward. And because of your weight, especially my weight in the water, you're going to keep the back of the kayak, back by the waves. And it's real easy to go in, and it just kind of floats you in. So that there's a little example for people. But the one thing that I think people don't do is they don't wear their life preservers enough. And I'm talking even in 3 feet of water. And tie down your tackle. There's so many different types of gear that you can use to attach your rods and reels to your kayak. So should you roll or flip or accidentally drop them, you can, pull them back in and not lose $1,000 worth of gear.
Great advice. Yeah, that was one of my biggest fears when I did do that kayak fishing adventure out of La Jolla Beach, was coming back in. When we went out, the waves weren't very big, so it wasn't a big deal at all. But as we were out there fishing, it started, the seas, I could see the seas starting to get bigger, and we were moving a lot more and stuff. And I was envisioning what the beach might look like when we're coming back in. And thankfully it wasn't as bad as I was imagining in my head, but me being totally unexperienced, I was like, I don't know, I know I'm going to flip coming back in.
Well, when my kids were growing up, I used to, and they'd say, Mom, what should I do? I would never answer them with a straight answer. And that used to really tick them off. I'd say, what's the worst thing that can happen? Can you live with the worst thing and be prepared for it?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm looking and I see breakers, I go, okay, I have a % chance here that I'm coming in and for some reason my rudder gets turned and I make a sharp turn and the wave flips me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have that potential. So I check, make sure everything's tied down, strapped in. And the worst thing that can happen is I flip. I'm prepared. But if you're prepared for it, it's not as scary.
Right. Yeah.
If you're prepared, it's not as scary. And you should do that. I mean, do it in a pool, do it in, sit in your kayak and try to flip it in shallow water and then get back in without touching the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of aids. There's floats that you can put onto your kayak paddle. There's like a rope type thing that you can use. That's like a step. The back of mine, I have a native Slayer Max and I love it. The back is squared off and it has 2 handles in the back. So I can flip up there like a walrus. And I look like a walrus flipping up there and just pull myself up without really any problem at all. I usually run with a flag back there, especially offshore, always offshore. I have a really tall flag back there to try to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do, it takes 2 seconds to unclaps that and lay it down. And then I have that whole bed right there to flip onto and can easily make my way back up to my seat. So, yeah.
Nice. So you starting getting into this kind of later in life and learning so much and achieving so much in a short amount of time. What's your biggest advice to kind of shorten the learning curve?
Truth of the matter, if you want to shorten the learning curve, and I've done this in new areas that I've never fished before, one, either hook up with somebody who's fished that area and knows it well and is willing to bring you along, or save your money and hire a guide.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I would hire a guide like quarterly, and if I was going to different places. And the other thing I do with a guide is I make them fish with me. I will not fish with a captain who won't fish with me. Because if I'm not catching fish, I don't know if it's my technique or the lure or whatever. If the 2 of us are fishing and he or she's catching fish and I'm not, I know it's me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I start asking, I watch what lures they're throwing. I watch their cadence, how they move them. I'll ask, well, why did you throw it? Especially when I was beginning to fish. Why did you throw it there and not there? Why did you ask questions? And I think women are so much better than that. Men will go, yeah, I know it. Nope, I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm good. Me, I'm like, well, why did you use that bait over this bait? Especially when I started. We're in tannic water. Why are you choosing that color? I mean, I know I drove people nuts, and I apologize to all the captains that I drove nuts. But you're paying good money.
Right.
And like I said, interview your captain. So I think that is going to give you a head start. When I wanted to learn a particular lure or a particular technique, I only took that lure out the whole day. I only used that one lure. And yeah, there were days I didn't catch anything. But by the end of day 1 or 2, I could make that lure do anything I wanted that lure to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned where to use it, where not to use it, when it was most effective in a particular area I was fishing in. So put time into it. That's part of it. Put time into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that I won the Fall and Tide tournament in Louisiana is that we called it the unicorn. The fish that was the hardest to catch out there was a big flounder. You had to catch a flounder, a trout, and a redfish. So I was catching trout all over the place. That wasn't a problem for me. And the redfish, well, that's a long story. It was a little tougher because it was blowing like this weekend, 22 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to get your popping cork up between reeds. But that's an I Love Lucy story. Seriously. The cork went one way, the shrimp went the other. A few choice words came out of my mouth. But anyhow, at the very end, I found a creek where we had pre-fished and saw a big flounder. We knew there were big flounder in there. And I'm like, I'm cold, I'm wet. I told the guys, and they're like 30 and 40 something,
Mm-hmm.
So I told them, I said, go fish the creek. I'm going to, grab a little something to eat here. It was like maybe 10 or 11 o'clock. And they came back out and they said, well, we couldn't find anything. The three of us are going back up to another creek because we kind of buddy fished that tournament. And I said, sure, go ahead. I'm going to have an energy drink. I'm going to have my lunch. The sun finally came out. The banks were high enough that it protected me from the wind. I mean, I'd already had to get out of my kayak and push it through the mud. So I had mud up to my knees. So, and I thought to myself, I paid to come here. But anyhow. So I'm just sitting there and I'm eating I still remember a tangerine, and I looked at this little creek thing and I go, you know what? I was in Jacksonville and I fished with Linnea and Jeff Aldman, and we fished in a creek that looked just like this for flounder. And I said, let me see if I have some gulp and that jig head, that DOA jig head. So I'm going through my stuff. I find it. My gulp is too big. I cut it in half, put it on the little jig head. Paddle myself over there. First throw, nothing. Second throw, thump. And it starts fighting backwards. I'm like, oh my God, it's a big trout. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I may have big trout. Oh, that would be so cool if I won big trout in this tournament, It's 170 entries. That would be so cool. Because that part of Louisiana is not known for big trout. Mm-hmm. So it gets to the surface. It is a monster flounder.
Oh, wow.
Then I started singing, don't come off, don't come off, don't come off. I finally got him in the net. And I sang a little praise song just to calm me down, because now my adrenaline is going 1,000 miles an hour. I just had an energy drink and I got this adrenaline rush, right? Just then, the three of them come back around the corner and I'm singing, thank you God for this or whatever. And they're like, what, Pam, you're singing hymns to try to get fish? I couldn't even talk. I just pointed to my net and they go, oh my gosh, she got the unicorn. It was a 17-inch flounder. Wow. And for that area, that was a monster. The next biggest flounder, I think, was only 14 and a half inches.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty cool.
That's
and
awesome.
Sometimes I am so naive. And the guys are like, I get the picture, get it up and everything. And all of a sudden my phone goes bling, bling, bling. And I get texts from all my buddies or people that I know out there like, how did you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm so naive. So I'm telling them how I caught it, right?
Right.
I don't care. It's, friends of mine. I still don't think anything. I mean, yeah, I got a really nice redfish, a decent trout. And, I knew that this was good. So I figured, ooh, maybe I'll make like Top Lady Angler. Maybe we'll get that. That would be so cool. And all of a sudden, Joe Camati comes around the corner and he's like, bam, you're on top of the leaderboard. I go, excuse me? How do you know that? He goes, come on, Attorney X has a leaderboard. Well, I knew that, but I didn't think of it. And I don't watch the leaderboard. It makes me nervous. So, I got real lucky and was blessed and won that tournament. It was so funny. I don't know if it was the first woman ever to win that tournament. That tournament's been running for 17 years. Wow. But I don't know if those guys in Louisiana were more. I mean, they were very, very sweet. That Bayou Club is probably the best club I ever fished out of. They're really. They even gave you tips on how to catch flounder the night before. But anyhow, not only did I won the ladies division, but then I won senior division. I think that ticked off a couple of the guys. And then the overall tournament, which gave me the trip to Hobie World. So that was pretty exciting. But kayaks got me all over the world. I won an entry where I represented the United States at a tournament in China, kayak tournament in China. I've gone to Costa Rica. I ended up third there in an offshore tournament. Wow. I fished Panama. I mean, I got a 45-pound cabera there and a rooster fish out of the kayak. So kayak fishing has really opened a lot of doors for me that a mortgage banker would not have walked
through. For sure. That's such a great story and so inspirational and just absolutely amazing to see and hear about all you've been able to accomplish since you've been on this journey. I feel like I could talk to you all day because you're just
so sweet.
A wealth of knowledge. But I do want to touch on real quick. I know, just from doing some research that you're a bit of a topwater junkie, which is, one of my favorite ways to catch fish. Just talk a little bit about why you love topwater so much.
I am. You hit the nail right there. I'm addicted to the topwater bite. How did I start? It's just, first of all, I use a rod that has a very, very soft tip, okay, with a really good backbone. One of my favorites to try to teach people when they're trying to learn topwater is the Heddon Spook Junior. And Heddon's been around since 1879, I think. So it's an old school lure, but it is without a doubt the easiest topwater lure to throw. The second would be the Rapala Skitterwalker. Those two are the two easiest. And I don't watch it. That's the trick. Especially, okay, I'm targeting with topwater, I'm targeting big redfish. And I'll sometimes even throw the one knocker, which is really big. And I don't go for quantity. I'm always looking for quality. I would take one 27-inch redfish over 20 15-inch redfish any day of the week. And you're going to laugh at this. I love the excitement of it. It's like I've seen different topwaters where you can see the fish come charging at it, almost like a dolphin coming at you. Or out of nowhere, they'll pop it, jump out after it, and pop it and take it. But I try not to watch it. When I'm throwing my topwater and bringing it back in, I keep a certain cadence. And basically, I'll sing a song. Okay, laugh. I was on swim team as a kid. That's what you did to keep your stroke together. And whatever, I'll slow it down for redfish, speed it up for snook, and speed it up again for trout. But it goes like dun 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 dun. Okay, there you go. There's the cadence.
All right.
And you sing that song faster or slower, depending on what you want to do. But like I said, I try not to watch it because 9 times out of 10, people who watch your topwater and see the fish hit it will try to set the hook. And if you have a good rod, okay, and your rod is so important on the topwater bite, if you have a good rod, that rod will set the hook for you when the fish goes back under. Just the energy of the tip coming back up and the fish turning. All you have to do is take your rod, take it to your side, and like you would a circle hook, and just reel in. And the fish will hook itself. People have told me I have an unbelievable catch to bite ratio. They usually say the topwater is the least ratio. My success rate is extremely high because of that. Second he hits, tip down to the side and start reeling, tighten the line. Once I know he's on, I might do a little jerk just to make sure that the hook is set. But that's how I do it.
Wow.
And I try, like I said, I'll be looking around when I'm doing the topwater because you can hear it and you can feel it, especially the spook. It goes as it comes along. And I'm watching the water to see if I see bait fish moving, if I see anything that looks unusual, a swirl, where the birds are gathering, because that's where, my predator fish are going to end up being. Right. So, yeah. And then once it hits, that's such a fun fight. Just the explosion on when they hit that topwater. I got a big snook the other day, and I was with a friend of mine, Barbara. And the snook came out of the water. I swear I thought it was I'm sorry. I thought it was a tarpon at first. It came flying out of the water and then hit the water, and it's like nothing. I thought, oh, he spat the hook. And I looked at Barbara. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that hit? And she started laughing. She goes, yeah, I saw it. I go, okay, I want to witness. And then all of a sudden the line comes flying in front of me. I go, oh my gosh, she's still on. And that was great. That was like a 39-inch snook. Nice. But it's just that kind of excitement. I mean, how can you not love that?
Yeah.
That is so cool. But yeah, that's why I love the topwater. It's one of the easiest lures to teach. I think paddle tail, or the freshwater guys call it a swim bait. I think that is probably the absolute easiest. And when I'm with a young person, that's the first lure that I'm going to have them toss. And I'm going to usually have them toss it at ladyfish because those are so much fun for kids to catch. And jack, they'll hit anything. So that's probably your easiest lure. But yeah, topwater. Thank you for saying that. I will. And people say you can't throw the topwater in the afternoon or at noon. And I'll don't throw it then because I'll be right behind you catching fish throwing it.
Yeah, that's a common misconception that it's only good in the morning. My first ever topwater catch was in the afternoon, and it was just one of those deals where I was like, I am gonna catch a fish on a topwater lure because I've never done it, and this is freshwater bass fishing. but I
Ah,
was just out there and I just threw, I think it wasn't a spook, it was a popper. And, I was just determined. I'm like, I'm going to keep casting this thing and bringing it back in until I catch one. And I finally did. And that was just such a thrill I was
good for
watching
you.
it. I don't know, maybe it's different with bass on setting the hook top water or not. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But, yeah, I was watching, I saw that fish just came up out of nowhere, scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I was quote unquote hooked on top water at that point. So,
That is. I would rather throw topwater than just about anything else.
hmm
And yeah, redfish are a little different because they have a big overbite, while bass have like kind of that rounded mouth and a really hard mouth.
hmm
So it's a little different on, the technique to set the hook for each of the fish.
hmm
But yeah, that's so cool. I just love the thump.
Yes.
Thump.
Yes.
All of a sudden your lure stops. Thump. Oh, 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 oh. I turn into that 5-year-old. Oh, 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 it's Christmas morning.
It's great. We live for it. I love it. Um,
It's so much fun.
yeah. So how do you pick and choose what tournaments you fish?
I used to, and it's a shame it's not here anymore, is I fished the IFA. That was for saltwater. That was the Inshore Fishing Association, and it was sponsored by at that time, a big rod and reel company,
hmm
international rod and reel company, and baits, and it was sponsored by a big box store. And both of those decided that they wanted to back out and just basically do freshwater. And it was also sponsored by Kayak, which now has a kayak company, which developed their own trail.
hmm
So they have their own trail. So all of them kind of dropped out and left them high and dry. But that was a safe place to learn to fish. I had to fish different areas. And I did it by a joke. Somebody challenged me and went, oh, okay, I'll go, you know. And I learned how to fish Jacksonville. I learned how to fish the lagoon, how to fish down in one of my favorite places is the Cape Coral and Matlacha area.
hmm
I love that
Love
area.
it too.
That Pine Island down there, Bokia. It's beautiful, beautiful down there.
hmm
Sarasota. And one of my new favorite places is Steinhatchee. That's a great place up near the Big Bend area of Florida, which is on the East Coast.
hmm
And you run into people. I mean, I've met some of my best friends now on the IFA that I wouldn't trade for the world. And, like Linnea, she's my sister from another mother. It just taught me so much, and it gave you kind of a protected, and there was 2 tournaments in each place every year with the IFA. And since it went away, I'll be honest, it's a lot harder to find, good tournaments. There's some online, but an online tournament isn't the same as you going out there, seeing people at the captain's meeting
hmm
and cheering them on and them cheering you on. It's a whole different thing. It's like zooming at Thanksgiving instead of getting together at Thanksgiving. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder. I look for adventure. To be honest, I'm looking for tournaments.
hmm
I dabbled a little bit in, like I said, in bass because Native has a big bass tournament coming up in the Queen City area. And that's one of my sponsors,
hmm
Native Watercraft. So I didn't want to be the girl who didn't catch anything.
Right.
So that's why I went this weekend to Kissimmee and just couple of the guys were practicing and I just kind of, or pre-fishing, and I just kind of tagged along behind them. Joe was amazing. It's like, okay, this is what you look for. This is what you look for. This is what bait you use in this situation. I mean,
hmm
he was freaking amazing. I missed a chance of getting to fish with Christina, but that
hmm
happens. I'm sure I'll catch up with her another time
Yeah.
because she's such a wealth of information.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have missed an opportunity as well. Unfortunately, when I was down there, I got the dreaded COVID positive
Oh
test, so we had to
no.
quarantine, and I wasn't able to. I luckily didn't have hardly any symptoms at all, but I didn't get to fish with her because I was messaging with her. I'm like, I gotta figure out how to fish for this freshwater Florida bass in this crazy crazy, all this grass down here. I'm just not used to it, and I'm sure I would have learned a lot if we'd
Yeah.
gotten a
Yeah.
chance, but we'll get it at some point. So
Yeah.
when the time is right. But what do you have coming up then in the next few months?
Oh, there's a local charity tournament here, and I target tournaments that are, except for offshore because you have to weigh those in. I target non-kill tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Tournaments where we call them CPR, catch, photograph, release.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no real way. I mean, you can kind of keep a fish alive in a kayak, but then to get it to wherever the weigh-in is, we don't have the big live wells that the boats have and things
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I target CPR tournaments, which there's less of those than there are weigh-in tournaments. There's not as many kayak tournaments anymore, so definitely I'm entering tournaments that are basically boat tournaments. That makes it a little tougher too, because the good thing about a kayak is it makes you learn an area. You can't just get up on your pretty speedy, flashy boat and go flying away to another spot. I mean, you're pretty much stuck there. So if you pick that location, unless you go back, load your boat up, and go to another launch, you're pretty much stuck in the location that you picked. So you learn every single nook and cranny of that area. You really pull it apart. And it's very intense fishing as opposed to just hitting all the points and moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So every crack and crevice, you become
Yeah.
intimately aware of.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when I'm picking it, and the next one's coming up, like I said, I've got one. Let's see, the end of April is the one is the bass tournament up in Queen Cities. I have a local one here, which is a charity tournament for fallen officers, and that's April 2nd. March, I know there's something in March, but I don't have my calendar open, so I
Oh, no
apologize
problem.
to you.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that is. So if any of y'all have any ideas on what I should fish or where I should fish, please message me. I'm excited. I want to try stuff that's new. I want to go back out to Texas again. I'm not Texas, but Louisiana. I've never fished Texas. I want to do that. I do have the World maybe this year. I don't know. Hobie World hasn't gotten back to us to know if they're going to do it this year or next year. COVID issues.
Okay.
But, and then I've got in June, one of my absolute favorite tournaments. Oh my gosh. This is such a fun tournament. It's called the GOAT tournament and it's in Navarra. Navarra is right next, just east of, like Pensacola, Gulf Breezes. And what that city has done is they've dropped artificial reefs within 2 miles of the shore. And unlike the west coast of Florida, where the joke is you go a foot a mile, meaning if you want to be in 20 feet of water, you almost have to go out 20 feet or 20 miles.
Yeah.
In Navarra, within 2 miles, you're in 65 feet of water.
Wow.
So that's very, very doable for a kayak, extremely doable.
Right.
And I have caught the biggest red snapper out there from my kayak. And I want to tell you, that is such a blast. That is so much fun. And the people out there are amazing. There's a club out there. You can look up, I think it's Navarra on Facebook, and just say, hey, if you're thinking of coming out there, they're very cool about trying to set somebody up to fish with you, because I'm old school and I don't care how good you are. You shouldn't really fish by yourself offshore. That's just my opinion. There's mom's little speech. But they'll try to set you up with somebody if they can, so you have a buddy to fish with that, kind of knows that area too. Right. All the reefs are online. You can download them into your fish finder. So, you have all the coordinates of all the reefs and just go. It was so much fun. It's my favorite tournament out of the whole year.
Sounds like a blast. Down. And those giant red snapper, to me they look like prehistoric. Like I don't know. There's just something about the real big ones that it's so cool.
And they're such a good fight too. It's like it's out of nowhere. You're like jig, jig, jig. I'm like, oh my God. The first time that happened, all the guys are laughing at me. I'm like, oh my God, I think I got them on. They're like, yeah, we think so.
So cool.
But there again, seriously, that's the cool thing about fishing. It always makes me feel like a 5-year-old, like, and I'm like, oh, did you see that?
You've got me fired up. I want to go out right now.
I know, me too. Except it's like it's like 50 degrees out there blowing.
Yeah.
So there's like I said, there's 2 tournaments I should have fished this weekend, and I didn't fish either. One is the sailfish down in Pompano, because they just moved it to today from yesterday, because yesterday was small craft warnings. I mean, 30 degrees and blowing 22 miles an hour. But I wish them all luck. I hope they all do well and they're safe out there. And then the second part of that Christina fish is the Kissimmee area.
Yep.
So I'm good luck and tight lines to all of them out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and they're either Pamela K. Wirth, and it's Wirth. My husband spells it wrong. And I answer just about every question. And my Instagram is basically the same thing. It might just be Pam Wirth, Wirth. Message me, just, if you have a general question. I do my best to answer every single person's question. The only question I don't answer is, where exactly are you fishing?
Yeah.
You're going to get that answer in the water, unless it's a kid. And I know it's a little kid, then I'm a little more patient. But I mean, I'm not a guide. I am not a guide. I can give you the name of a bunch of guides because it makes me too nervous to try to put somebody on fish. But I love fishing with different people. So if you're in an area, I would love to fish with you. Just tell me where you're fishing, when you're fishing, and why you chose that area.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Because I've had people go, yeah, come on, we're going to go to so-and-so. And I go, well, did you look at the tide? No. Well, they look at the tide and they tell me back, and I go, so it's a negative low tide, so there's not going to be any water there, and it's going to be blowing out of the north at 15, and you want to fish the south side, which means the wind's going to be hitting you straight in the face. I said, yeah, no. So I try to help teach people on their own how to find fishing spots. They have that Salt Strong group that basically kind of does the same thing, but a lot of it's common sense, and once you think of it, you go, oh my God, I should have known that. If the wind's blowing out of the north, you don't want to fish on a south shore. It's just going to be smashing into you.
Right. Yeah.
But anyhow, I'm talking saltwater lakes. I don't know that much. I'm going to tell you that straight up. I don't know that much. Do you know what I'd love to target?
What's that?
Pike and walleye.
Oh, now you're speaking my language. Walleye is my favorite. I have a special place in my heart for the toothy critters, the toothy fish.
I have never caught either. So that is on my bucket list, maybe for this spring, if I can find an area and find somebody so keep me in mind if you hear about a trip or something like that.
I will.
That's what I want to do.
One of my favorites is, I've gotten to do this a few times now, is to go up to Lake Erie out of Port Clinton, Ohio, with this Captain Mark. And I mean, you want to catch walleye, you're going to catch some walleye and smallmouth too, which those smallmouth are amazing to catch because I don't know if you've ever caught smallmouth bass, but they fight. They're one of the best fighters. And I don't know what it is about the Lake Erie smallmouth, but every time I've caught one, it seems like they do the same thing. They hit, they jump up out of the water, and then they dive right back down, and then the fight is on. It's so much fun.
That sounds exciting. Okay, you need to plan that trip and let me know.
I will.
Just don't do it the week of July 19th because my son is getting married in Scotland.
Gotcha.
So that week's out.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll reach out to him. Maybe we can line something up. That would be a blast.
That would be so much fun.
All right.
As long as you're okay with a 5-year-old on the boat.
No problems with me. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's one of my favorite favorite interviews, I think, so far. So.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you. You were great.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in person, actually getting to spend a little bit of time with you. That would be awesome. Maybe fish together, and maybe we can line up that Lake Erie trip.
That would be great. Keep in touch. Thank you so much for this opportunity. You're very kind.